Talking Tottenham, a fantasyfocus.com production.
Welcome to episode 178 of Talking Tottenham. Bucky joined by Danny Shakes. Times are dire. All we are is dust in the wind. This is not good. 3 games in a row, 3 London derbies in a row, conceding 3 goals, only managed to sniff 1 back on Arsenal, 3-1 on the weekend. Danny Shakes, what's your headspace like at the moment?
It's not great, Bucks. We tried to talk ourselves into things being okay with 3 1-0 victories at the start of the season, but let's be real, anyone that follows the club knew there were definitely cracks. It was the same players that Jose Mourinho basically complained about, and I thought maybe Nuno had found something. I thought the team was figuring some things out. I thought we had an influx of a couple youths out there that were making a difference. And cut to all of 3.5 weeks later, where we were celebrating Arsenal being at the absolute bottom at the table and Spurs at the top. And now Arsenal is ahead on whatever the stupid tiebreaker is. I know they're level on points, but Arsenal is now 10th in the table. Spurs are 11th. This is a sinking ship, Bucks, and we have to do something. We have to do something fast.
Where do you start with that? What do you think the starting point would be that you would make if you were in Levy's position, or better yet, Nuno's position? What's the one change?
I'm not in the camp that you fire Nuno immediately, but you could probably get me on that side of the fence after a few more games. If you just never have the respect of the locker room because they say to themselves, well, this guy was the 10th or 11th choice for Spurs brass. If management doesn't even care to hire him on the first go and have to go through everybody to eventually find him back, or not back, I should say, but go back to him to actually sign him, then why should I be listening to this guy? Why should I be worried about following his tactics and carrying out his game plan? If you don't have a voice there, that's a problem. And then eventually, yes, you might have to cut ties with him. But I think we just got to shine the magnifying glass on the players. I think it's just there needs to be some accountability from certain players on the team towards other players on the team. There needs to be accountability in that, hey, you got to quit leaking all this shit to the media to create this dumpster fire. And maybe there probably needs to be a shakeup in the lineup where maybe you aren't going to be playing what you think is your perceived best 11, but you should put the guys out there that'll follow the game plan and actually work and actually try out there.
I think the first change for me, is accountability as well. I think whatever's happening, whatever dissent there is, if we have any defectors in the locker room, a mutiny perhaps, then that dressing room is rotten to the core, because same thing happened with Jose, same thing happened towards the end with Poch. Things that have been non-variables throughout some variables on the coaching ranks, that's where I find it to be, listen, guys, you either want it or you don't. Nuno's tactics seem very straightforward on the surface. So if we have tactics that seem straightforward, yet our players are having a hard time at least acclimating and performing those tactics out, then we got to look somewhere different in terms of who we're placing in matches every single game. So I think my first thing I would do is, while it feels, sacrilegious to a certain extent, for lack of a better term, to say, well, maybe we just go with a little more youth. I know we have established Premier League players, but those players right now don't look to be performing on all cylinders. So what is it going to take to light a fire for those players? Because if we keep running them out there and we get the same dogged performance where it just seems like the heart isn't in it, let's get some folks who will go out there and at least bust it and put their heart on their sleeve and their sack on the ground.
For sure. And look, we need to be understanding that this is a long-ass season. Still, every trophy is available in front of you except the Prem. Spurs were eliminated from that basically fourth, even at 3-0. It's like we all knew that wasn't ever something that was going to be possible for Spurs. Let's be real. So everything's still in front of the team. And I think just you have to understand it's going to take some time, Bucks, and maybe it is you play some different players are going to work their asses off there if you get some okay results and that builds, and then you start seeing more buy-in, maybe you'll start to get buy-in from the quote unquote better players that are on the team, or at least the higher wage earning players on the team, and they'll eventually follow suit. I mean, it's not like everything ends in the next month here. We're going to be talking about this team, unfortunately, going into May, Bucks. That's a long time from now. It's like 8 months.
Maybe a shakeup in January. I wouldn't hold my breath through
Tough to do
January.
transfers in January, but
Yeah.
I mean, there's some. I mean, we'll probably drill down on the details going on in this pod as well as others. I mean, I'm ready to single out players when you are. I'm going to make you fire the first shot before I do it. But I mean, people saw it on the field. I mean, there's certain players out there that just look so listless and just look like they just weren't present in a North London derby moment. Whereas Arsenal, is not a good team, and Arsenal didn't play great this game. So to be down 3-0 in the 34th minute against just a middle of the table Arsenal team, like, I just refuse to give them all this credit in the world, except for the fact of like, hey, you showed up for the North London derby, which should just be both sides, every single player. I know all the fans did, all the supporters did. So I look, credit to them. Yeah, sure. They took the opportunities and ran with it, but just, it was so on Spurs for like the most dismal first half of football that you'll ever see. And it just happened to be against your greatest rival and your greatest game of the season.
Ugliest rival. I wouldn't call him the greatest rival.
Yeah, no, I don't want, you're right. Move great. Edit. Ugliest
Yeah,
rival.
we can edit that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know
So
what I mean? Greatest like
I think
game that you look forward to.
I think everybody knows who I'm going to start with. It's Tanguy. And the problem was it's always been effort. It's always been fitness. It's a never ending cycle there. But what was astounding to me and stood out the most was right off the opening kickoff where he was lazy and out of position, which caused them to be able to get a shot, not on net, but a shot based on us fumbling around. As he presses forward, we clearly with Dave had a lapse at the back right off the jump. And you don't even see Tanguy tracking back when they had 3 wide players that were pushing towards that right side of the goal. How can you do that? It's the opening possession here. You need to be on your toes. You need to be busting it back. And it's the same cycle with him. That's where all started. Who else you digging out today?
Well, real quick, also on Tanguy, he seems like the one that just didn't buy into the tactics. He probably heard a lot of, wait, we're going to take our center backs and bomb it forward and try to do some hold up play from there, like get it to Kane, have him head the ball, maybe get it to Son, and then I pinch forward. Tanguy wants the ball. So look, although Nuno is not my number one, to blame, I do think if you're going to create that sort of play and tactic and put that out there, then don't play in Ndombele. Just don't do that. Like, he needs to have the ball starting up and going up the pitch. And maybe that just means you don't play in Ndombele against anyone that's like 15th in the table and higher. He's got to just play in Europa Conference League, and he's got to play against lower table teams, which Spurs are now a member of, because it's just, he needs to apparently run around the middle of the pitch and hold the ball. And if he doesn't get that sort of tactic, he then pouts and just doesn't do anything else on the pitch that he's supposed to do. My next up is Deli Ali. I think what's admirable, Bucks, is he attempts to play in a position that he has no, like, just the fact that he's even out there and being requested to play either a left side midfield in a 4-3-3 or right side, wherever you want to say he is, and he gets to float or do whatever, unless, again, that's against a team that's just going to have no possession and Spurs are going to dominate it and pinch their center backs forward, and hopefully you get more Deli in there to kind of make one-touch passes. You're just not going to get Deli holding the ball. You're not going to get him, defensively minded or fundamentally minded out there as a midfield 3. And I do think it's like he was asked to play this position. He got himself in super ridiculous shape. He's out there trying to fit, that square peg and round hole, but it's just not working out. He plays a position that unfortunately has kind of gone by the wayside. Blame guys like Pep and Klopp for, creating this high pressing group that doesn't have a 10 with it anymore. And really, they don't even have like damn strikers either. But I just think like right now, unless you have a tailor-made position for Deli that is like that pressing 4-2-3-1 or 3-5-2, he's just kind of unfortunately not the best solution in the midfield. Like just GLC is better than him in that position. Oliver Skip is much better than him in that position. And when you just watch him just run around out there, it's just pretty clear. I mean, Spurs are playing 1-on-3, and then if you push the fullbacks up for Arsenal, basically 1-on-5 in that midfield. It was an absolute dumpster fire. And again, that kind of goes back to Nuno with if you're going to deploy the team this way, I get maybe why you want to bomb it because you're like, Deli can't hold the ball. But then why are you playing Ndombele, who wants to hold the ball? Then at that point, maybe you should play Lo Celso or you should play Skip in there, instead. So
Yeah, it's like a conflict of interest. It's
right.
Like
that's where like tactic wise,
yeah.
Nuno's not to blame here, but it's like I almost feel like it's like he's being ordered to play Ndombele and Deli. Like truly, like it just felt like, upper management came down, was just like, hey, you have Deli on this team and Ndombele on this team, Dyer on this team. They all need to start. And then he tries to fit this tactic. I mean, you and I watch a lot of NFL pro football. I have all my buddies that are Chicago fans, like watching a running quarterback try to do drop back passing. It's like that. It's like, if you're a team that wants to put these types of players in the midfield and then the tactics don't match up, this is what you get. You get guys like, Odegaard or Party or Saka just in all this effing space because like just we don't know how to handle the midfield.
Well, there's no shape in the midfield. It was disjointed throughout all 90 minutes.
No one should have saw that.
Once Skip came in,
work.
Once Skip came in, it did take a little bit more shape, and you saw that in the play on the field. But when everybody is out of position, or at least thinking they're in the right position, but maybe it's conflicting because those long balls weren't working. So possibly Tanguy was coming back a bit more while the other two were pressing up, trying to figure out where the ball's going to come from. When you're on the pitch and you have no clue what to expect, how can you estimate where to be on that pitch and understand the flow of that game? There was no flow. And for that, I will say, I think Nuno played a part in that. But I also think that if I'm playing in that situation and I can tell that it's just not working, we've never been good aerially, by the way. So that whole long ball tactic, it works great on counters. It doesn't work great when they're sitting back and we're asked to win balls near the midfield line. We don't do a good job of that. We're just not good in the air.
No,
just not. Not with our forward line at all. We don't have hold up play. Kane's a step slow. And this is not going to be a rant on Harry Kane, but gosh, it feels so weird to not see him score a single Prem goal yet.
For real, Bucks.
In open play.
And the shred of hope that I have is it does seem like Nuno learned. Off came Dele Alli for Oliver Skip, a more box-to-box midfielder with a more defensive mind. And then he could play behind, a Højbjerg or advancing Ndombele. Also came on Emerson Royale, for Tanganga because he too is just better on the ball, more in the middle of the park, whereas Tanganga is more defensive-minded. So look, I get it. Nuno's not scouting every Spurs match last year, probably. He had Wolves to worry about. I'd like to think he probably went back to some tape. But again, I do wonder if above him, you got Lord Levy saying Dele Alli is a prized player of ours and he needs to be playing. And then he's like, shit, well, where do I play him? I'm not putting him up with Son and Mora. So I guess I'm going to stick him back here with Højbjerg and Ndombele and ask him to be a holding mid. That's a dumpster fire decision. And I'm hoping that he's just learning, like, if I'm going to play Tanguy and Ndombele at all the rest of the season, he just needs to play above two holding midfielders. That's just it. Period. End sentence, like end paragraph, like we're done with that. Like it just has to be like Højbjerg and Skip with straight up defensive orders to play behind Ndombele. And then the goal is to get the ball to Ndombele to see if he can do something. Kind of almost look at it the same way as Deli. I know people wanted to say Lo Celso and Ndombele are kind of like the same player. Like you have overlap there. Well, now somehow we made it where Deli and Ndombele are like kind of looking like the same player and you can't play them at the same time or in the same position. So that's where I'm hopeful Nuno is just kind of learning here. Like, well, that didn't work. Sure. Maybe it worked a little bit in the first half against Chelsea. Maybe I had something cooking with a 4-3-3 against Man City when it was straight up counterattack ball and I didn't have Kane out there and I didn't have Ndombele out there. So let's just go back to the holding defensive roots. And that doesn't mean Spurs got super defensive suddenly. It doesn't mean like we're playing park the bus ball. What it just means is we're going to put in more defensive midfield cover to let the offensive guys hopefully do something. And if that's the way it's got to look for the team, I don't think that's like trying to give away possession or just playing behind the ball. I just think that's playing smarter, and you got to look at sending other guys more forward. That's why I'm hopeful Royale will get more of a play in. I know Tanganga's your boy, but it's just he doesn't need to be the third guy in a back three. It needs to be like Skip sitting in front of Sanchez Dyer, or it needs to be a back three with Romero between two other center backs. Send in Reggie up, send Royal up to give the midfield more help because it needs all the help in the world. I mean, we can't even get to like the forward lineup yet, Bucks, because they don't even get the fucking ball. So like, it's like, oh, what do we see out of the forwards? It's like, I don't know. They don't see the ball. So before I can start critiquing them, let's get the ball to them first, and then we can talk about it.
I'm not offering any criticism to the front line because there's just nothing to get them the ball. And one thing that stood out as far as what you just said is Deli in his best years played to the left of Kane, tucked in a little bit behind him. We got a spot there, and I know that, Steve's hurt, but that gives you some versatility and some decisions to make if you are playing in Ndombele. You can tuck Deli in there in a pinch. You can place Heel up there, and then Steve. I think there's good options up there, and really I want to see Sonny on the right-hand side a little bit more to open up the versatility of those players on the left. Because why haven't we seen Sonny start on the right, and then they can do some interchange as they go through the match? You're shaking your head, so I'm curious your thoughts there.
Yeah, no, Deli on the left side is fine. It's just the problem is then tactically not formation, Bucks. To me, it's when Deli was most effective, it's under the Poch years where Spurs played just the dirtiest, nastiest press. And it's like you have Kane just digging in as hard as he can. You have Son on the other side digging in. You're pushing up Dembele. You're pushing up your fullbacks and Rose and Walker. And then you have Deli there floating to also trigger the press. Spurs don't play that way. They high press a little bit, like, with the Nuno ball, like the Christmas tree, we call it. It's just, unless you're doing this hardcore Poch press and now, like I said, Pep and Klopp and, all these other guys that are more, real front foot on it. That's where then I think it suits Deli if he's further up the pitch on the left side. It's just because we don't play that kind of pressing ball, that's just a different position to me. Even though he's on the left side and forward, I get like positionally it's in the same spot, but it's just not the same position.
Yeah. And I think for all the good work Deli has done this year, this is not a critique on effort. I think the effort has definitely been there. But through those first 3 games, kind of drew him out a little bit, I think, energy-wise. And we're not seeing the same energy as the first 3 games, but you can't just look at 3 games as 9 points and say everything was clicking on all cylinders. I think right now is kind of that crucial point in the season going into this Mora match. And then we have Villa on the weekend. I think they have to find what else they have. So hopefully we get some good shakeup, and continuity is always an important thing. But even the best clubs constantly shake up their lineups. I usually get an unexpected player in there when I look at, say, Liverpool against a mid-table team like Villa. Interesting lineup for a team like Chelsea. Well, it's never that interesting with Chelsea just because they are fully stacked right now.
Methodical.
Yeah, but you look at Man City, perfect example. There's always just one guy in there that's a little bit different. Let's see what we have right now, because I still don't think Heel has had enough run. I would love to see Brian Heel start on Sunday against Villa. I just want to see what the kid can do in a Prem match for 90. I think he has enough of the tenacity, but he's probably our most creative player currently.
At least on the wing.
How sad is that?
Well, I think Sonny, it's just none of these guys are getting the ball. And then when we see Heel get the ball, it's against, Europa Conference League opponents.
Good point.
So Spurs are going to have it a little bit more.
God, we're screwed.
Well, and you made a good point earlier. I just wanted to point out, Deli and Ndombele both probably put in the wrong position. It's just Deli worked his ass off still, whereas Ndombele sulked. that's the difference there. So credit to Deli for working his butt off. It's just, you could just tell it's just not the right fit, to have him there. I mean, all day long I would play, like I said earlier, Skip or Lo Celso, in that position. And I think just where I'm hopeful again, Bucks, is you got Nuno assessing all of this, and he did, it says he's got a pretty good, bright football mind, and he knows his tactics, and he's played everything from the 4-3-3 to the 4-2-3-1 to the famed 3-4-3 and 3-5-2 over at Wolves. Maybe you'll start seeing that stuff get tweaked, because again, I couldn't stand Jose ball when it's like everyone behind. I get it. It was a definite plan. And I know Jose like hammered on the players to the point where it's like you get defensive for the players, and then, everyone goes against Jose. It's just, although it's the same players out there, they're good players. Like on the surface, it's like, this is a team that probably costs, top 8, top 7 in the Premier League when you look at all the valuations. So it's just trying to figure out how these ingredients work all together to make it cook.
All right, so this is a 2-part question here from Sam. Where do we start? Is Kane done? Should Deli be in the starting 11? Well, it's a 3-part question. How can we turn this shit show around? We'll start with 1. Is Kane done? Definitely not, but he's not looking full Kane. And because of what we pointed out, do I think there's a little bit less effort? I mean, he missed that sitter, perfect ball into him, 63rd minute of that Arsenal match. That's a Harry Kane bona fide. That's just an easy goal, and clipped it wide, which was shocking because it's dead to rights with Ramsdale there. And Ramsdale didn't have a shot, no shot in hell. That concerned me, but that was really his only bona fide chance for the match. If you're not getting, your normal 2.5, 3 shots on net a game, then you're going to have a hard time getting in the groove of things. So is he done? No. And we're stuck with him. There's no way we sell him in January. If we do, what's that valuation like considering the first play here in the first 2 months of the season? But further to that, what's our option besides Kane if we do sell him in January? So he's going to stick with Spurs. He's not done. Deli, we already hit on this. Go on Kane there.
I was just going to say that Kane obviously used to be much more consistent, but now he's a streaky player. So I do think if Spurs figured out the right formation where they're getting him the ball a little bit more, I'm not saying the formation like ends all issues and suddenly Spurs are, just running off wins. It's just if they get him more service, he will eventually find some form and score. And he'll score in bunches. So I'm not worried about that. I'm much more worried about getting Kane the ball than Kane's play.
Yeah, and it's not like Kane is a sleeping giant. We already know he's a giant. He doesn't have to rise up. We just need a little bit more a lot more service to him. And if that comes from a lot more 1-2 action with him and Son both dropping back, then that's what we need to do. Why no?
So actually, I was going to bring up this point.
Okay.
The person who first knew that our midfield sucked a year ago might have been Jose, but if not, second was Harry Kane. And why is that? Because he comes back and plays basically as the 3rd or 4th midfielder at all times. Harry Kane is far more effective closer to the box. He's so instinctive. He goes to where the ball is going to go. He always can pick up those mop up deflections. He's by far Spurs' best header of the ball. He's got the quickest turn where he can put a shot on net. He did have one of those, like Emerson Royale set him up and he put a quick shot on net. Comfortable save for Ramsdale too. That was his only other chance, really, Bucks, that I can remember in that Arsenal match. But I'm just in the camp that you just got to shoot everyone else forward in the midfield. Not when I say shoot forward, I mean you got to push them forward so that you can get Kane then more forward so that he's around the box. Like he came back and starts, setting up all these assists and all that, but it didn't really work well for Spurs by the end of it. I mean, once teams started figuring out how to play it, push their center backs up against Kane when he goes up and, tries to get the ball in the middle third of the pitch, Spurs just unfortunately outside of Son didn't have someone else that could finish really well for Kane. So I'm not against Kane coming back every once in a while to switch it up and to try to keep the defensive players guessing and on their heels more so that Spurs aren't just 100% predictable. But the way he comes back so much is probably more indicative of him thinking like, man, our midfield sucks and I'm not ever touching the ball. So this is what I have to do to get to the ball. I have to run to the ball with my back towards the net. And that's what you don't want.
I like that. You make great points. You're very clear and concise.
A lot of coffee right now, Bucks. I'm
coffee.
Trying to keep my energy level the same right now. I'm just not excited.
My sleep didn't take last night. Like I slept for a good 6.5, 7 hours. It didn't take. Very lethargic, and folks can probably tell.
Well,
Night owl Buck.
It's also the past couple performances with the exclamation point of Sunday.
Yeah, it's hard to be herky-jerky and full of joy.
I'm also still recovering from the Ryder Cup, Bucks. Great time.
Yeah.
Oh, quick little story. On the Ryder Cup, you get these radios that you put in your ear because then you can follow, where the golfers are and like what each match is because it's match play in the Ryder Cup. Well, one of the feeds is BBC, and so there's a European feed, BBC, the English broadcast, and there's like United States broadcast, like NBC. BBC started having the North London Derby because the game kicked off before the first match went off. They had like 20 minutes of pregame. So basically, we got the first half of the first half. So anyone that was listening in on the course got to hear the dumpster fire that was Spurs performance for at least the first, I can't remember, 10, 15 minutes of that match. So that was great. Couldn't even leave it when I was in Wisconsin watching, my favorite event, golf, and had the game recorded. But
yeah, but at least you were doing some rustic camping, so that's always good.
Right.
Yep. Beans for dinner, beans for breakfast. Over the Coleman Grill.
Steaks in Milwaukee.
No private chefs, none of that.
I didn't even Deli though. Yeah, I think Deli just needs to be unfortunately
rotational.
Benched. Yeah. Sorry.
How do we turn it around? I think the midfield they got to figure out whatever's going on in the midfield. And I think Ollie Skip, hopefully he can come into more of an attack-minded player. I don't think he will, but just string together a little bit more. That'd make me feel pretty good. Don't know. We don't have an answer. We don't have answers. We're just here to talk about how depressed we are and how this team really sucks the soul right out of you. But, it's what did I say in our text chain? This is the Hotel Spurs of Fornia. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. It's kind of how I feel. I feel a little bit checked out, but God knows tomorrow, Thursday, I will be watching that Mora match if it's on. Lord knows. Who knows? Yeah. Who's making the decisions on the PapaJohns.com? Brought to you by Kia Sorrento. Yeah, hopefully we will be able to find it. Yeah.
Hopefully.
The stats are bad. We got a couple more questions. All it is the same stuff we've already kind of rehashed here, boys. All right. Enough about Arsenal. Beat Villa on the weekend. Shakes and I will be doing another show on Friday to talk about the Villa match, but our sites are on the PapaJohns.com. UEFA, Europa, Conference League, brought to you by the Kia Sorrento. We need a new sponsor, folks, so whatever we can do for suggestions on the sponsors, we need to get that in. So, Mora, they're not having a great year. They're kind of up and down. They did lose to Vitesse 2-0 on match week 1 for the PapaJohns.com. So with this match, I do want to see us go pretty youth heavy. I think we have to emphasize and prioritize that match on Sunday against Villa, who I think is a very, very sound opponent. I like a lot of the pieces they have there. So I think we need to go with a bit of a rotational pull and hopefully with some more youth. But when I look at what I have down, yeah, I do have 3 good youth players in there, and we'll see what we have. But Mora struggling a little bit. Kind of shaky in their league campaign as well. I think this is one of the weaker teams in the PapaJohns.com. So let's see what we have here. My 11, I've got Scarlett leading the line. I want to see him get a little bit more shake in there. He has not impressed, but I think he has the tools in the tool belt, like Toolman, the Taylor, Tim the Toolman Taylor.
Home Improvement. Great show, Bucks.
Fantastic show. From Detroit heavy.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, JTT was killing it. The kid who played Brad, great. Who was the third kid who was really out of place? That was like me my whole life, by the way.
I'll think of his name and text you about it later, but it's really
you know who I'm talking about. He was out of place. Yeah. Like when you have Brad and then you have JTT as your 2 older brothers, you're in for a rough life because you're never matching the highs of those two. Those guys are absolute killers. Ladies, wrestling, football, didn't matter. Watching the Lions with Tim, they were great at it. But then you had the third wheel just running around like a kind of a geeky kid.
He could have had some tricks up his sleeve. He might be the most successful for all we know. Maybe he leads
He probably is.
something.
Yeah. He probably is.
We had little brother syndrome. He had to work his ass off for everything.
All right. So I got Scarlett leading it. I got Heel playing on the left, Lucas on the right. I think we need Lucas with his tenacity to kind of trigger some more runs. There you go. Benford Tools. Yes. That's just organic.
I was going to say either Aces the Place Hardware or Built by the Home Depot.
I like Benford, a fictional tool company from a show from the early 90s, early and mid 90s.
All right,
I think that works well.
Built by Benford Tools.
Built by Benford Tools. That's perfect. Built by the Home Depot. All right. And then I've got, I think Lucas is in there. What do you think about having him play?
Lucas was the one guy that always looks like he's trying out there. I'm not sure if that's his style of play or not. So kind of missed that with the Arsenal game. Like, Lucas, you did not play bad. Also, Reggie, you didn't play bad either. So we can build off you, Reggie. Like, I thought you were good. I'm fine with Lucas going back-to-back 90s. I do wonder, though, if Nuno will want to save him for the matchup against Villa. So I had Heel and Scarlett, but I had GLC in there on the top right.
Okay. I could see that as well. And see, I have GLC slotted in behind Lucas on the right-hand side.
I would prefer that because I think he's being played out of position the more I've watched it, Bucks. I think GLC needs to be in it. If we're going to play a 4-3-3, just put GLC in the middle of the park, please. Like he plays for Argentina and like he's played like in the past at prior clubs too. I just think we need to put him in a position that he's better at, but that's me.
Okay. I've got Winks in there. I don't think that'll shock anybody. I've got Nile John. It's the Jonassons.
I like that. Do you have a third midfielder?
Yeah, Lo Celso.
Okay. Oh, okay. So that's like, see, I have Nile John as well with Winks, but I also have Ndombele starting more as punishment.
Okay.
And hopefully we tell him, like, you have to do all the defensive roles of this and just see what he does. We're going to play Nile John ahead of you.
I want Nile John in there. I want to see what he's got. All right. We got Davis on the left. Fingers are crossed right there. Not many other options. Reggie hasn't really looked that good either. Joe Rodon, assuming he's healthy. I've got Sanchez in there as a pure punishment move. And then Tanganga playing on the right-hand side because I think Emerson Royale starts on Sunday against Villa. And then Galini, who has been quite a concern. Looking a little shaky. Distribution looks good. Distribution is a plus to Hugo. But the rest of the package, there's a lot of work to be done, but we're going to roll him out against Mora.
I had the same back line, although I had Dyer being punished, so he would have to play. With Dyer and Dave, look, I get it. Midfielders are supposed to come back and track the trailers, but doesn't it feel like if the Arsenal player, whoever it might have been, just kept running like even into the net, like just Dave or Dyer just would have followed themselves right into it? Like just out of position. They just would have ran into the net, like past the touch line into the netting itself. Like I'm convinced that's their positional awareness, Bucks. But that's also what happens when your midfielders are just 40 yards away and nowhere near it either. But it just feels like no one knows how to like play the cutback.
Yeah, we got Nathan here in the comments. Wants Markande to get a debut. I would not mind that at all. He's looked sharp in the youth setup. So I want youth. I know that, Alex, you think he's feeling pressure, but the pressure's in the Prem. I don't think there is pressure surrounding any European game, but this is the one for me where if we're seeing the same problems and we think that the grind and all the minutes are starting to add up and maybe contributing to all the struggles we're having, I think you need to take a step back and think to yourself, well, how do we hit that reset button for Sunday? For me, the league match, far more important than this particular match. It's only the second week of the papajohns.com, built by Benford Tools. It's only the second week. So we have a little bit more leeway there when we're in the back half of the table currently, that's what we have to emphasize to get out of this rut and start believing again. I'm not even talking about us as supporters believing. I'm talking about the team needs to believe. So I want full strength, full rest Spurs for Sunday. I wouldn't be shocked to see Kane instead of Scarlett. But I do have Spurs winning 2-1. I got Spurs winning 2-1. And I want Marconde to get in there as well, Nathan. Absolutely.
I have Spurs winning 2-0. This is such a mismatch on paper that it would just be embarrassing for a non-victory. But that's the state of the club right now. Here we are just questioning if this mid-table team, and what league are they in? I don't even know. Yeah,
I mean, Slovenian league.
Slovenian league, yeah. Like this should be a blowout, everybody. But here we are questioning it, and I know we're playing the backup squad, but who's backup anymore after what you just watched against Arsenal? The one thing I wish we did more, Bucks, and I don't know if this is a question Nuno's answered yet. It's like, do you feel comfortable and think 4-3-3 is like the formation going forward and the way you're playing? You know, if he wants to try something else, 4-2-3-1 or 3-4-3, like, why not try to create the continuity of always playing it and using things like the Europa Conference League, papajohns.com, built by the Benford Tools, featuring the Kia Sorrento. Why not try to utilize that as like, you know, I don't want to call it an exhibition, but just like to kind of put out there the same tactics so that you get the players more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I totally agree there.
Idea.
Yeah, 2-1. I got us winning. It's not going to be a great match, but I got us winning. I want to see Scarlett get a goal really, really badly.
That'd be great. See Scarlett. It would be funny if Kane started. That would be another punishment start.
Yeah, and I want to tip my cap to you for one, Shakes. I never thought you'd out nickname me, but Gil Daddy Flex is popular with the people out there.
They love Gil Daddy Flex.
The Gilster didn't really. It never. I'm now Gil Daddy Flex.
Are you?
Yeah.
Just rolls off the tongue better. Plus, when he scores, you can say it very like pronounced, like Gil Daddy Flex, like as he's sliding, you know,
Nathan,
the screaming crowd during the Europa Conference League.
Nathan asking, would anyone like to meet at the Bunker Post-Apocalyptic Steampunk Bar for the match? Absolutely,
yes, for sure,
absolutely. Yeah, save me a beer and a gas mask, and we'll be good to go.
So, Bucks, I have a question going back to the Arsenal match. Why didn't any of our new signings play? What was the point of putting them on the team?
I'm not.
Romero's not starting. We had to wait till the second half to get Royal in there. Like, I just can't.
Heel doesn't start. Yeah.
No, I mean he's the only one you could almost kind of argue a little bit, but he came in later. But like, why aren't those two guys starting? Meanwhile, Tomiyasu gets plugged in immediately. We made fun of it being a bait and switch, and then he's been great for Arsenal.
Yep.
Wish that could have worked out for us.
Yeah, we probably came up $1 million short.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, no, we had to spend more money, and I think Royal could be the better player. It's just maybe we'll never know. That's why, like, it's just, look, if you're going to try to play these other players that are hopefully good signees, like, if you had to switch up the formation just to make sure you get rid of Ndombele or make Deli more rotational, then go 3 at the back. I don't give a shit. Go to a 4-2-3-1 with Højbjerg and Skip. Like, just do something different because this is not working. Like, this 4-3-3 does not work.
Yeah, I think we need to start some variations. 3 at the back for league matches would be how I would kick things off. We'll get into that on Friday our Villa preview.
Because I'm driving myself crazy with that.
I know you are, because you send over lineups like 6 times a day, every day.
At all hours.
Yeah, I got one at 2:45 a.m. Shakes.
I was feeding my little girl. She was up.
Yeah. The tank's always eating. Tank is always eating.
When isn't Tank eating? Good, great point. Tank's a monster now, Bucks.
I want to end this though by discussing a show that I started watching, Squid Game, on Netflix. It's a Korean show. You know how much I love Korean filmmaking.
You like
this is my first exposure to Korean television show, and it is awesome. It is sick, but it's so good. The acting's a little cheesy, but I don't watch it with the dub. I just watch it with subtitles. They speak Korean. It is awesome. I mean, it is one of the coolest shows. And it got recommended to me. I'm like, what is it? Squid Game? And then I looked at it. I was like, is this like a real? Is this like what was the name of the show? MXC or what was it?
I'm the wrong person to ask. MXC.
No, it was like this really zany South Korean game show with like it was an actual game show.
Oh.
This is a drama based around a fictional game show involving cruelty, a bunch of wealth separation, and the caste system, and then basically it's wild, and then a lot of death, tons of like more death in a TV show than I've ever watched, and I'm only 4 episodes in.
I think Sonny watches it.
I think everybody's watching it. It's like top 10 in the world in Netflix. Yeah, I'm sure Sonny probably was on this last year. That's probably why he scored so many goals.
Oh, I'll look this up, Bucks.
Yeah.
Squid Game.
Highly recommend it. Highly recommend. So take a look. We'll talk Squid Game after you've had a chance.
All right, I gotta watch it now. Yeah, because I'm not really offering anything. Because I got
okay. So it was a Japanese most extreme elimination challenge. That's what it was. Yeah.
Oh, so it's Japanese.
Yeah.
Got it.
It was the wildest show, but no, this is intense stuff. You got to give it a watch and then report back. We'll talk about it next week or in a month whenever you have a chance. I know your hectic schedules these days.
Well, got to feed Tank early in the morning, late at night, and watch
that lineups.
Paradise in between. Yeah, send you lineups.
Yeah, you got a lot going on, Shakes. All right, we'll wrap it up here. We've got Spurs winning. I've got them at 2-1 over Mora, and then Shakes has a 2-0. Hopefully, it's like 5-0. That would get us juiced up and ready to go for the weekend. All right, Danny Shakes, sign the people off.
Let's go. Sorry I'm so down, everybody. I will bring the energy next time. Let's go. Come on, you Spurs.
Coys, get it done. Beat NS Mora. It was weak, but it's all good.
Yeah.